Do you write code for a living? Are you involved in the professional software space? Are you just basically making things with computers? If you do, you know it can get hectic. The modern software development process can be a nightmare, and you might feel that you're not being as productive as you'd like, you're not getting as much stuff done. You're finding you're just kind of distracted and things are everywhere. And as developers, we tend to turn to a framework when we want to build something, and becoming more productive can be exactly the same. There's a cool framework called the GTD Framework, which stands for Getting Things Done. It's been around for a while and it helps people get through the work without feeling sort of tired or mixed up. And I've worked in the software space for 20 odd years, and it's something that professional software teams have never really looked into. So let's say you've got a massive box of Lego, and without a plan, it's hard to know how to build something. The GTD framework is like having a plan for all this Lego. It's like finding all the instructions and telling you which pieces go where. You know what pieces to pick up, you know how to put them together. And in the end, you can create something awesome. So I'm going to talk about how developers, coders, programmers, or people who make software can use the GTD framework to finish tasks, make cool things, and still have time to play around with Lego or gaming or whatever you want to do. Let's get started understanding the Getting Things Done framework for developers. So number one, you need to catch all your ideas. We think our brains are like storage devices, but they're not. They're like processors. You know, think of your brain as like a butterfly net. Every time you have an idea or something you need to do, you need to catch it in your net and put it somewhere safe, like a notebook, a computer app, somewhere that you're not going to forget it. So then part two is then make your ideas clear. Now you've got a list of all the ideas and the things that you want to do. You need to look at each one and go, what's this about? Do I need to do something with it? You know, it's a good analogy. It's like looking at all the toys or looking at all the games that you've got and deciding which one you want to play with. And which ones, you know, you can wait till later on. So number three is then you need to organize everything. After you know which toys, ideas you want to play with, you sort them out. Some might be for making things, some for learning, others just for fun. But putting your ideas into groups, you know where everything is, it's in an order, and then you can just start working through those ideas. So in part four, look at your plan as often as you can. You know, so every few days, just check your toys and your ideas again. You know, maybe you want to work on something else. Maybe you've finished with it and you can get rid of it. It's just a way of tracking your progress to see how things are progressing. So finally, number five is start playing or start doing. Now you've chosen what you're going to play with, what to do first, how it's going to be done. You can just then start executing on the plans you've put together. It's a really organized way to make sure that you get your websites, your software built. It's just like planning your own Lego build. It could be really, really fun, putting all the building blocks together in a way that you've planned out, and that you decide how it's going to get built and turn out. Why do we as software developers need the GTD framework? Things can get confusing. You know, you've got all these requirements, things that you want to do, so many ideas, things to look into, research spike tasks, refinement, actions, all these things. It's hard to get everything straight and in an organized manner. Like number one, you've got too many ideas. There's a lot of ways to solve a problem that a business may be having, but if you don't keep track of them, you might forget what they are and what you need to do with them. Plus the second thing is you can mix things up. You know, you're trying to play football, hide and seek, do something else. You need a way that you can be able to switch different tasks that has a plan, so you're not getting things muddled up and crossed over. And then the third thing that happens when you're not organized is you can feel stressed and tired. We're genuinely introverts by nature, and doing deep work can be tiring. And then if you've added on all this chaos, it just drains us. So we need a way to get organized and stopping us having our battery drain too much, you know, that's not in our control. The GTD framework helps us sort of mitigate them three issues. So how do we actually implement that into our development workflow? So at its core, the Getting Things Done framework is made up of 5 distinct actions. They are capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and finally engage. And getting it in the workflow, it's kind of like having this massive jigsaw puzzle that is building a software product, and then it's helping you sort of put all the pieces together. So stage number one is the capture stage, which is capture ideas. So whenever you think like, oh, this is a cool thing, it's a cool piece of documentation that's going to help me, get it down, get it into your computer, and then you've just got less like organization of it. So number two is understand your ideas. So look at each idea, clarify it. What do I need to do to make this happen? Is it just a piece of information that I need to store for future? Or is it something that we can action on, and how do we do that? So then the third step, which is organize, you need to sort your ideas, put them into groups. Some ideas might be quite big, other ones might be quite small. You need to decide on which ideas you want to work on there and then get information into that idea and get it documented for future reference. So part 4, which is reflect. Remember to look at your plan. Every few days, check your inbox of ideas. If you've got new ones, process them. Maybe you just got to review the tasks that you've already put in there and that you're making sure you're getting them done and that you're not getting too overwhelmed with things and you've got a clear idea of what to work on next after your current task. And then the 5th and final part, the fun part, which is the engagement. It's about picking an idea, picking something off the top of the list. Once everything is organized, you know exactly what to do. And then you can start putting all these pieces of puzzle in place and just like snapping them into place and get the jigsaw built. Sort of organizing it into these 5 distinct stages and actions. It just stops you feeling overwhelmed and you can get stuff done and just really get through your to-do list. And when things are coming in, you've got a way of just organizing them, getting out of your head and then being able to refocus on the deep work of coding. So it's all very well giving you this sort of high level overview of the GTD framework, but how does it look like in action? Well, I'm just going to run through in a second my implementation of it using Notion. So I've been coding professionally since 2007. Around 2010, I've really become obsessed with productivity. That led me to sort of reading the GTD framework in sort of 2015, 2016. It's an old school book and it kind of gives you tips on how to do it physically. And then I started building up a toolkit in around 2020 digitally. And I think I've nailed it. So I'm just going to run through how I use the GTD framework in my day-to-day and how you can implement that in whichever tooling that you use. Okay, so I'm going to run through my GTD framework, how I implement it. So I've got this in Notion. I love Notion. It's one of the best apps I've ever used. I used to have 3 or 4 different apps like Trello for Kanban boards, Evernote for note-taking, Microsoft Note for note-taking. I've been able to collate everything into Notion and sort of structure everything, different personal marketing content, habit tracking, but my day-to-day runs from sort of the GTD framework that I built up inside Notion. So I'm just going to run through each stage in there. So going back to the first stage, which is the capture stage, I have this inbox. So it's just a quick way of using Notion. So there's a plugin for your browsers that if you're reading a website or you find something useful, you can just save it straight into the inbox. I think you can select a default folder and it'll go straight into there. So that's a great thing to do. And then once you've got it on your phone, so you put Notion on your phone, there'll be on the share button. You might have to scroll down to find it, but you can just share anything with it and give it a title. So I found like a Medium link, and it'll automatically save the link as well, which is cool. All these LinkedIn, Twitter things. As you can see, I've got like ideas, like business ideas, copywriting courses that people have told me about. So I've screenshotted like images from Twitter. So it's just a great way to get it down, first and foremost. However that format is, whether it's you typing links or images that we've seen, you can just get information in there. Even with my phone, I've got a voice recorder on my phone that if I'm out for a walk, let's say, and something comes to me, an idea, I record it, save it, and then I just share it straight to Notion, and it'll even embed it in here. Have I got? Yeah, so this one is a little marketing idea for Shopify owners that I've got, and you can see it's just a voice recording. So the medium that you're recording on, it doesn't really matter. You can easily get through all the information and get it saved into your inbox, ready for review. So when you're going through the reflect stage and you're looking at what you're currently working on and what you want to do, you can review your inbox and then start making decisions on all this information. So the clarify stage is generally going through this inbox, like I said, and then working out what to do with each piece of information. So what I tend to do is then it can go to different stages. So then you've got the to-do and actions, which I'll come to a little bit later in the engage stage. But I've got sort of this read review. If it's just information that I want to look at later, I've just got this massive list of courses, books, articles, and we've just got this master list, and I've got a status, and then I categorize that into different things that I want to do. So your inbox, you've gone like, oh, this is a cool article, put it in your inbox, and then you can sort of categorize it to read review for a later date. And then I've got this useful reference again, which is sort of information that you don't want to forget, but you don't want to look at straight away. So things like how to position your startup. So it's similar to the sort of the read and review, but it's more things that you make like, what's that way of like launching a startup and positioning it that is the best way. You can just go to this list and you can see what's useful, and you know you've got the information there at hand. So the next section is the someday maybe section that I've got. And like I said, if you've come up with an idea for like, I don't know, you want to try SaaS product yourself, it's a great way to getting it into the inbox and getting it sort of documented. And then you can sort of like I do here, I start padding things out and sort of getting it out your head and being able to revisit it, but dropping the priority down so it's not taking up the mental space. You've got all the information out your head. Like I said, we're not storage mechanisms. You want to get that idea and get it into something that's storage. So this is a great way of deprioritizing something, but getting all the information down that you need that you can look at a later date. So then going back to the most important stage, which is the engage stage. The engage stage for me is the to-do actions. What I'll touch on before I go into this, I have sort of a project business, so all the businesses I'm working on, personal ones. So then whatever I'm working on relates to a project. So then let's say I'm doing something on elementary analytics. Let's say I've got all the information, a direct link to that project if I need, like I've got further information. So whatever that may be, sort of the branding assets or whatever it'll be. So project and businesses is a great way to then, when I talked about grouping what you're working on into groups and categories, for me, that's projects/businesses. Another thing that I just want to touch on, I've not documented this much, but like systems and processes. So if you're doing something that's recurring, so I'm trying to create more and more content. So eventually I'll start padding out the systems and processes with my own documentation, or I'll record a video like this with me running through something that I can, let's say if you ever want to outsource something, I can send them a video and away we go. So this is more like SOPs, systems, processes. Again, take things out of my head, but remember how to do them, and then sort of future-proofing things if I ever decide to delegate something as well. So going back to the to-do actions, this is sort of the master list that I put in, is sort of an overview of the task, give it a priority, link it to a project if need be. I give it sort of an activity as well. A how, which is do, automate, outsource, hire, which we'll come back into a minute. Iteration, backlog, or current, which is in the software development space, we'll know about this. I've designed my to-do actions in sort of a Kanban style, which I'll show in a minute, because I think it's just the best way to organise my workload. You might be different, but the Kanban board is brilliant. And then a status, which I'll show again, which again I've kind of ripped off from the software development space of getting it through the Kanban board. And then what I do, so I've got the all list, I've got a backlog, which is anything that's marked as backlog goes in here, so I'm not too focused on it, and I can review that on my reflect stage if needs be as well, to see everything that I'm working on and also everything that I've got coming up in the backlog. Is it still relevant? Do it needs padding out? I take out development work as well, so if it's non-development work, I put into this list just to be clear. Development work, again, it's just a case of splitting out the backlog, and it's just a case of splitting out the all list into different sort of things that I want to focus on. A lot of my time it is development work, even though I'm running my own businesses now. And then this stage is hire, automate, or outsource. So let's say I'm using something like make.com or Zapier to do some automation. I'll put it into this list and then get that through the pipeline, because it'll be more of a one-off task that, like I say, it's going to be someone else is going to do it, or some process is going to do it for me, but I just need to get it implemented and then out of the way. And then finally, to the crux of it, the to-do list. So anything that I put in here that's marked as do for me in the current iteration, current sprint, goes into here, organised by priority. And then I've kind of organised the status into these sort of categories. And I've kind of, it's like a brickwork. You're not going to do BDD, TDD and CIN testing for a brickwork quote. But because a lot of my stuff is development work, I've just used that same structure where I want to either get it to done and release live. So you can see I've got all these little things I'm going to do for business and personal projects, birthday presents, brickwork quote, and the goal is to get it into the done and release live status as well. So just using the Kanban board, there's nothing more exciting for me to moving it into each one and getting it into the done field. It's kind of like, it's gamifying the whole process. A lot of us coders love gaming as well. And if you can gamify your workload and go like, I need to get it into release live. And the gamification for me is actually, I don't actually archive anything. I click delete. So the goal is the game for me is to get this number down as much as I can. by getting things into do and done and just deleting them. What you could do to gamify it for you could be you've just got this archive section that everything goes into, and you've just got this big overall number, and then break it down like this week I've done this many, this month I've done this many, lifetime I've got this many tasks done. So if you can gamify it, I think you'll get through your workload more. So that's how I have implemented the GTD framework using Notion to get all my software projects. And so anything that comes into my head, it's captured, then it's kind of like clarified and organized. Then I start sort of reflecting on the work and then taking action, which is the execute and get stuff done section, the main crux of it. So that's the implementation that I've come up with. So that's how I use the GTD framework in my day-to-day, running my own software projects, as well as sort of professionally for other businesses. And I'm just going to run through sort of the common challenges that you may have implementing GTD framework and what you can do to overcome them. So like number one is remember to write things down. It's hard to remember and capture everything. So either have a notebook to hand, which is a good trick. But for me, that's why I use Notion, is whether I'm on my computer or whether I've seen it on my phone, you can just share it straight to your inbox and away you go. So the second thing to try and overcome is actually knowing what to do with an idea. And Tony Robbins goes on about asking better questions. So think of your idea as like a clue on a treasure map, but you don't know where it leads. It's like, ask the question, what's the next step to get closer to the treasure, whatever that may be. It'll help you figure out sort of the next step, instead of what we tend to do is going, right, the solution of the software product's over here. We've got this idea. How do we get to that? It's a case of following the clues, and you've got to ask questions to help you get to find all the clues that you need. Another challenge, which we've already mentioned, is like getting bored or getting tired. It's important to take short breaks, like using things like the Pomodoro technique. But sometimes the problem with that is remembering what to go back to and what you were working on and all the information. This is where the GTD framework's great, is you can go away, take a break, come back, knowing you've got everything in one place, organized, and you can just get back up and running with whatever you was doing. So that's my run through of implementing the GTD framework for developers. So remember, it helps us keep ideas safe, know what to work on next. And it's like following a map to the treasure. It helps us to try and make the work a bit more fun, that we're not getting too lost and we're not getting tired. And if things start getting hard, we can overcome the challenges by remembering that we've written down all our ideas, we know how to get our ideas down, figuring out what's next, getting organized, and then having the ability to take a break and then come back to something. If you found this helpful, I'd love it if you could like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell icon. That'd be a massive favor to me. And if you do want to get up and running with the GTD framework as a developer, or you want some more tips on productivity, check the links in the description. I've got a course on how to be more productive as a developer, and you can grab your own copy of the GTD framework that I use as well.